start that. Okay, well, welcome everyone. Again, thank you for joining. We are so excited to meet with you or speak with you all this evening. Please, everyone, if you get a moment, please sign in using this QR code. We will also have it listed throughout the presentation. So if you miss it at any point, no problem at all. Just a quick overview of what to expect this evening. We're anticipating that the presentation will run for around 30 to 35 minutes, and then we'll spend the remainder of the time discussing your questions during the Q&A portion of this evening. So with that, I will switch over to our agenda. And again, you'll still see that the QR code is available in the corner. But to start things off, my name is Dee Roberts, and I am a recruiter at Analyst Group. I am joined by other members of the recruiting team this evening, Kaylee Canty and Jake Mulvey, and we're really looking forward to discussing navigating the application process as part of AG's Fall Engagement Series. And we hope some of you were able to participate in our earlier sessions, but if not, we're happy to dive right into what we're hoping to cover today. So in terms of the agenda, we will be focusing on the analyst full-time and intern application process for both the analyst general and analyst healthcare positions and how you can best prepare. And we will review different aspects of the analyst role. We'll talk through the application process and offer some tips and tricks for putting together a strong application. We'll provide an overview of AG's summer internship program, as well as AG's Rise at AG program, which is a week-long in-person externship. We'll also provide a brief overview of steps that you'll need to take in order to submit your application. And then at the end, we will, as I mentioned, take questions from the audience. And for that, we will use the Zoom Q&A function. And as I did call out, we will have a separate part of the session today where we'll go through the Q&A. So if you can, I would recommend holding your questions until the end, because it's likely that we will cover a lot of your questions throughout this session. So if you can, hold off and we will get to as many questions as we can. With that, I will pass it over to Kaylee.
Thank you so much, Dee. So as Dee mentioned, this evening, the roles that we will be speaking to are our full-time and intern analyst roles in both our general and healthcare practices. The summer analyst role is pretty much an introduction of what it's like to be a full-time analyst. So we're trying to give you an overview of what it's like to be an analyst in our presentation today. So when we say analyst, we are typically referring to both our intern and full-time position, unless otherwise noted. So all of these roles that we're speaking to this evening have similar responsibilities, however, may fall within different practice areas, and therefore the nature of the work can be different. The healthcare role falls within our HEOR, epidemiology, and market access practice area, whereas the general analyst positions fall within our general economics consulting practice areas. If you're interested in learning more about what practice areas we do cover, we encourage you to check on the AG website. Generally, though, it's pretty hard to write a job description for an analyst because it does change from case to case, as well as from day to day. However, we do want to highlight a few key components of this role. So, as an analyst, you are exposed to multiple projects at a time across a broad range of practice areas and industries. You are provided with the opportunity of working with top professors from leading institutions, counsel from premier law firms, submitting to clinical regulators like the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, and working with corporate and government clients. Our casework is varied and intellectually stimulating and provides analysts with exposure to unique topics and data sets. Generally, analysts play a very integral role on our case teams, from inception of a case through filing. Analysts make contributions at every step of the way, and throughout their tenure are able to develop in-demand technical, analytical, and communication skills. An analyst plays all different types of roles on a case team, depending on where they are at in the life cycle of a case. Also, with regards to what the case team structure is, as well as what the needs of the case are. So, for example, you may work with various statistical programming languages while navigating data sets. You may perform literature review for clients. You might write study reports, meet with case teams, discuss findings, or attend client meetings, or something else not listed here. You will be using methods that you're currently learning in class with the technical and quantitative training that AG provides to contribute to all different types of casework at AG. So given the different nature of different case teams, you'll have the opportunity to work with other analysts, senior analysts, associates, managers, VPs, and even partners within your day-to-day routine. Given AG's flat organizational structure, an analyst's voice is incredibly important in the conversations that you're having, so you're encouraged to speak up even when we're working alongside partners. So this allows for a lot of opportunities for mentorship and close relationships with senior staff. Finally, our full-time analyst casework is assigned through our internal labor market, which allows for you to get staffed on cases that are truly interested to you and work with colleagues who you truly enjoy working with, which is great. So, transitioning now to the qualities that we look for in an analyst application. So, to be considered for the analyst role, we require that candidates be pursuing a bachelor's or master's degree and have a GPA of 3.3 or higher in their most recent degree. Thinking specifically about our healthcare positions, we do have a slight preference for master's students. However, we are open to considering undergraduate as well. To be considered for the internship program, we prefer to be seeing juniors or seniors or students in between their first and second year of their master's programs. Thinking though more about the qualities of an analyst that we are seeking with regards to our new candidates. So typical majors we see are biostats, computer science, economics, environmental health policy, epidemiology, finance, health econ, and the other majors listed here on the slide. Our generalist and our healthcare positions do have slight differences here, so we encourage you to read the job descriptions on the AG website to see what is more aligned with your background. We also look for folks who have strong interpersonal, oral, and written communication skills, have experience or a strong interest in statistical programming languages and data analysis, have effectively worked independently as well as on a team, have a passion for using data and analytics to solve the economic, financial, and business challenges that our clients face, have demonstrated analytical, quantitative, and organizational skills, a strong academic record, and excellent attention to detail, and finally, have a desire to continuously learn and develop professionally, as AG is a very academic environment and people are constantly trying to learn more and take on new challenges. So thinking specifically about the intern role also, we do have a lot of training that we offer throughout the course of the summer. And then with regards to our full-time role, we have a lot of training within the first few months of your tenure here. So even if you're not coming in with a lot of statistical programming languages, that's okay. We have a lot of training along the way. So we're just looking for these other qualities that we highlighted. But thinking about AG big picture, AG has 14 offices across 6 different countries. So while we are one firm, you will have similar opportunities as an analyst across all offices. AG does extend offers and recruit for specific offices. So you're welcome to apply to all of our roles, but there might be specific job requirements. So please review the job description before submitting your application to see if your skill set and background aligns with that job description. If you're specifically interested in our healthcare roles, our HUR practice is not in all 14 offices. It's in our Boston, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Menlo Park, Montreal, London, and Beijing offices. And unfortunately, we are not able to accommodate healthcare opportunities outside of these offices. We also know that flexibility and the ability to work remotely sometimes is very important to many. So our center of gravity is largely around being in person. However, employees may work remotely 1 to 2 days a week, most of the time. Employees are sometimes able to temporarily work fully remote, but such arrangements are handled on an individual basis. For our summer program, interns are expected to be in the office at least 3 to 4 days per week. When you are submitting your application, Jake in a few minutes will dive more into the application process, but you will have the opportunity to choose up to 3 offices and assign them with a weighted percentage on your preference. And this weighted percentage should add up to 100%. There's also an additional notes section in this portion of the application where you can highlight some additional context. So you might be might have complete geographic flexibility or an extenuating circumstance that does not allow you to have such flexibility. We use this information to route your application to the office that is most aligned with your preference. So if your first preference is no longer hiring, we may send your application to your second choice. So it's very important for you to be completely honest with your preferences on your application. If your preferences ever change throughout the duration of the application process, please notify your recruiting point of contact so that we are aware. Finally, I just want to note that AG does provide visa sponsorship and immigration support for qualified analysts that have STEM degrees. We have a dedicated immigration and mobility team that will work with candidates, and once they receive an offer, work with them to secure the work authorization if needed. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jake, who will dive more into our recruiting process.
Thank you, Kaylee, and thanks everyone for joining tonight. On the next slide here, we're really going to dive into the application and the interview process in terms of our requirements and really the timeline for both the full-time and the summer analyst positions. Please keep in mind this is a very high-level overview of the process, and I do want to really emphasize that this can vary from office to office depending on who you're interviewing with. So right now, if you were to go to our website, you'll notice that the general analyst and the summer analyst applications are open for the 2024 start date cycle. Our healthcare application is not live yet, and that will be released later this fall. So if you are interested in healthcare, please check back in the next month or so, and it should be up online. After submitting your application, materials will be reviewed by our team and then shared with offices of interest. So that's why really ranking your geographic preferences is so important. Following the review of your applications, candidates may then be invited for a first round interview. Please know that first round interviews are primarily conducted in a virtual environment during the months of September, October, and November. And then from that point on, really on a rolling basis, and that these interviews are typically about 30 minutes long. Following the first round interview, you'll hear back from us within about 2 weeks about next steps in the process. The final round interviews are primarily conducted in person, though they can be conducted virtually as well, depending on circumstances. And then in terms of offer decisions after the final round interviews, you can expect to hear back from our team within about 3 weeks. All right, next we want to go into a little bit more detail on the full-time application and then the summer analyst application and really highlight the differences between the two. So for the full-time application, you're going to see our application requirements here. You'll notice that we do require a resume, a cover letter, which we'll get into in a little bit more detail in a few slides. And then we do require transcripts as well. We're looking for your unofficial transcript. And if you are a student who has their bachelor's and is going through your master's program right now, we are going to look for your unofficial transcript from both programs. So something just to keep in mind as you're going through the application process. You'll see on here our timeline on the right. And so this is broken down from our generalist point of view and then also our healthcare timeline. In the next slide, we're going to go over our summer internship application. You'll notice that the requirements are very similar to our analyst application. So again, we're looking for your resume, your cover letter, and then any unofficial transcripts you have, whether they be at the bachelor's level, if you've got your bachelor's and your master's, we're going to look for both of those transcripts or however many transcripts you have, depending on how many schools that you've attended. You'll also see our timeline on the right. To go into a little bit more detail about the summer internship experience, the purpose is really to serve as an introduction to the analyst role. And so those that are joining us as a summer analyst are really taking on the same roles and responsibilities as our full-time analysts. And so this is giving you the opportunity to see what life as an analyst is like, see if it's for you, and really to learn a little bit more about economics consulting and more about AG. Typically, our internship experiences do last about 10 weeks. And so those are usually between the months of June and August. And on very rare occasions, that cycle can differ slightly. For summer analysts, we are really looking for students that are about a year away from graduation. So if you're a student that is considering applying for the summer analyst 2024 position, this likely means that you're going to be graduating in either the spring or summer of 2025. Or if you were graduating a little early, let's say you were graduating in December 2024, you would also be eligible for the summer analyst position this upcoming year. One thing to keep in mind is that all of our interns are working on real casework. They're interacting with our consultants on a daily basis, really at all levels, whether it be an associate, a manager, a VP. And so we really value the work that our summer analyst interns are doing. During this time, during your summer experience, you'll be participating in training sessions, you'll be networking with the folks across AG. And our hope is really that you get to experience firsthand what a career at AG and working in economics consulting could mean for you if you were to join the firm full time. Now, for our summer analyst position, our job description did open in early August. And so our interviews are going to start taking place in mid-October. And then the internship experience runs from early June through August. At the end of the internship experience, all summer interns are evaluated for a full-time return offer. And many of our summer analysts receive that return offer and then ultimately do return to AG the following year to work full-time upon graduation. One thing I do want to point out is that our healthcare internship has not been posted yet. That will be posted in early November, with interviews set to take place in January and February. But do keep in mind the healthcare internship has the same timeline as the general internship experience. So that would also be early June through August. So the exact same timeline as our general summer analyst position. Next up, I do want to go into a little more detail about one of the elements of the application, and that would be the cover letter. And really want to discuss the purpose of the cover letter because it is something that we really value and we pay very close attention to. And so both the full-time and the summer analyst roles do require a cover letter as part of the application. The purpose of this cover letter is really to complement your resume, and it gives us the chance to really learn a little bit more about you and allows you the chance to connect your skills and your experiences to the AG role. So what we would recommend is really to take this cover letter, spend plenty of time on it, and use it as an opportunity to set yourself apart from other candidates by really highlighting your interest in economic consulting, the analyst role, and AG in general. We really would like to emphasize the cover letter is intended to help you, and it really gives you a chance to really speak more about the experiences that you really have valued to this point in your undergraduate or your graduate career, whether that be organizations you've been involved with, certain classes that you've really valued, certain programming languages that are important, or any other internship experiences that you've had to this point. All this type of information would be really helpful to include in a cover letter. So in terms of what we're looking for, we're really looking to see what kind of skills, experiences, or unique backgrounds can you bring to the table? And so for that reason, we really would encourage you to take your time on the cover letter and be really specific with your examples and make sure that your cover letter is tailored to AG. We would highly recommend you do not use a generic cover letter and simply replace the company name. I'm not saying anybody here would do that, but just would really like to underline that. We want you to take your time. We want you to really be thoughtful about your cover letter because it is a pretty significant portion of our application process and our application review. And so we want to make sure that you're painting yourself in the best light possible. And I think this is really a nice way to do so by being extremely thoughtful about the cover letter. So take your time as you're going through the application process. Make sure you're setting yourself a plan for the cover letter. And then, of course, we would highly recommend that you proofread it. A big part of the work at AG is being as error-free as possible. And so this is really a nice little example of that. And a nice first step is to really proofread your cover letter. So you're really making sure that we understand your background and we know that you really value the work that you're putting forth. All right, so now that we've talked a little bit about what we're looking for and our application requirements, I think it would be helpful to go into the structure of our interviews in terms of what you should expect as a candidate. And so we've broken this down to a few different areas here in terms of our first round and our final round. For the first round interviews, you can expect to meet with 1 or 2 consultants for about 30 minutes total. And again, that's going to be in a virtual setting. Our first round interviews are not in person. When we get to the final round interviews for those candidates that are moving forward in the process, you will meet with approximately 3 to 5 consultants. Again, the hope is that this will be in person, and they typically are, but on occasion, we could have some circumstances where it has to be virtual. And so we are flexible in that way. Please know that schedules do vary by office. So depending on which offices you are listing in terms of your geographic preferences, it could vary from office to office. So something to be aware of. Again, all interviews are going to be behavioral, so we do not have any case study questions, but we certainly will be asking about your technical and your quantitative abilities. So that is certainly something to be aware of and something to prepare for as you're putting together your cover letter, as you're getting ready for interviews, something you want to pay very close attention to. And then we do want to highlight that during this time, you're going to have the opportunity to ask questions about the analyst, the summer analyst position, and also about the firm in general. And so going into the interview experience, we would highly recommend that you put together a list of your questions, because that is going to show us that you've been thoughtful about the process, that you're really interested, and really kind of allows you to set yourself apart from some other candidates if you come together with some really thoughtful questions. In terms of what we're assessing, what we're looking for, we really want to see candidates that display strong problem-solving skills, candidates that display strong critical thinking, they can have strong analytical reasoning. And so for that reason, we do want to make sure that if you are listing any examples of your research or any data projects in your cover letter, or if you're speaking about any internship opportunities, we want to make sure that you have a strong understanding of those experiences, because we want to make sure you can explain them, talk them through, because that's something that you would do if you were to join AG as either a summer analyst or a full-time analyst. We're also going to look to get a sense of your interest or your experiencing in programming. And so do be prepared to talk about that during the interview process. And we certainly want to make sure that you are able to demonstrate an interest and an ability to collaborate well with others. You'll hear it if you've attended our other engagement series sessions, that teamwork and collaboration is really integral to the experience at AG. And so we want to make sure that you are a team player, that you do work well with others. And so we want to make sure you emphasize that during the interview process. We are going to be looking for candidates who are strong communicators. Again, they're strong team players. They have strong leadership skills and really express an interest in learning more about economic consulting at AG. These are all items that you can highlight in your cover letter and also really emphasize if you were to move forward with a first round interview or ultimately a final round interview. Some items that we do recommend, we certainly encourage you to review all aspects of your resume and your prior experiences before you submit your application, and make sure that you highlight the ones that are most important to you and keep them top of mind as you're going into the interview experience. We would also recommend that you do your research and really visit our website, learn about the cases we've been involved with, learn about our different consultants, their stories, their backgrounds, because that could be really helpful to you during the interview process. And again, we really want to make sure that you come prepared with any questions that you have. This is something that we will be expecting, and we really appreciate that. We want to make sure that you're getting everything out of this experience that you can. And so please come prepared with, your top 2 or 3 questions or 3 to 5 questions just in case. So we can really hopefully answer those during the interview process. And then one thing to keep in mind as you're going into your first round interview, our recruiting team will share a 1-page tips and tricks guide, some recommendations to prepare for the interview experience. And so that's something that I also would recommend paying very close attention to. I do want to close by saying, for those students who are thinking about applying for the internship experience, but perhaps you don't have a whole lot of work experience on your resume to this point, that's completely fine. If that is the case, I would certainly just recommend that you really lean on your classwork, your experiences at your school, and really your interest in economic consulting, because that's something that we're going to pay very close attention to. We understand that everyone's going to come in with varying levels of work experience. So please don't be discouraged if you do not have too many work experiences on your resume just yet.
Thank you, Jake. And Jake did touch on this a little bit earlier, but we just kind of wanted to dive in a little bit deeper into just an overview of the summer internship program at AG. So as we previously mentioned, as an introduction to the analyst role, Analysis Group hires summer interns into a robust 10-week in-person summer internship program, generally the year before graduation. So this would include juniors and or students in between years 1 and 2 of their master's program. The summer intern responsibilities are equivalent to a full-time analyst. So you'll be staffed on to at least 1 case. You will be able to make tangible contributions to your case team. The interns get exposure to the firm's work, staff, culture through ongoing technical and soft skill training. There will be practice area overviews where you'll get a more in-depth kind of preview of what different practice area AG offers. We'll also have many ongoing social events and programming throughout the summer as well. And many of our summer analysts do receive return offers to join us full-time upon graduation. And we just want to share here as well that the summer program is also an important opportunity for interns to assess us as well and to really figure out, is this somewhere I could see myself long-term? So we work really hard to make sure that your experience kind of really gives you a good example of what it would like to be, working at AV full-time. So again, you'll be staffed on with casework, you'll have exposure to the work we do outside specific cases as well. You'll have senior staff touch points, mentorship opportunities. Mentorship is something that's really important here at AG. So you'll have not only a peer mentor to kind of go to for quick questions, things like that. You'll also have an advisor to help you with kind of bigger picture ideas throughout the summer. Feedback is also like a really key aspect of the analyst role in AG. So you will go through a mid and end of summer performance evaluation, and that's really to help you kind of see where you're at in terms of your summer internship program and how you can continue to go throughout the summer. And we want to also give interns kind of insight into how this could potentially look full-time. So with all that being said, there's just a lot of different aspects that go into the summer program. We'll also show what it's like to go through our technical trainings, which is one of the really great benefits of working at AG. So I think Jake mentioned too that it could be that you might be going into the summer internship program with maybe not a lot of programming language experience and whatnot. So we'll also make sure that you'll go through technical training and learn those on the job skills. So we have a lot of resources that we'll provide throughout the summer as well. And then before we go into our application deadlines, I wanted to just also share an overview of our Rise at AG externship. So in addition to our summer internship program, we are so excited that we'll also be offering our Rise at AG externship for the third consecutive year as part of our DE&I initiative. So the externship is designed to introduce you to the world of economic consulting, and essentially it has many aspects of our 10-week-long summer program, but all aligned into 1 week. And we really want externs to kind of get a sense of the type of casework we do, our culture. So we have case shadowing opportunities as well as a mock case. And this week-long experience takes place in our Boston office, and all travel is paid for. So at the end of the week-long experience, you'll also have the opportunity to interview for a 2025 summer internship program with your top office preference as well. We also have listed on this slide our DE&I recruiting team contacts, Megumi and Ivy. So they're a great resource for any questions as well. And we'll also provide contact info at the end of this presentation as well, and can answer any questions you have about the externship. But in terms of the application requirements, so the specific requirements are outlined here, and we do want to note that this program is geared towards undergraduate students who expect to graduate in either winter 2025 or spring 2026. I know it seems far to think about, but applicants are required to submit a resume, a statement of interest, and unofficial transcripts. And again, we will go over application deadlines and whatnot on the next slide. So here you'll see kind of an overview of all the different jobs and areas that we talked about today. So candidates should apply through AG's website to our positions by the deadlines here. And then after the application deadlines, we will continue to review applications on a rolling basis. If you do miss a deadline, we still encourage you to apply, and you may still be considered pending availability. As you'll see here, we don't have exact application deadlines for our healthcare and or externship positions yet. However, once these jobs are posted and on our website, the application deadline information will be listed within the job description. So there will be more information there as well. But with that, we have certainly seen a lot of great questions come in through the chat. So I think we can start to dive into those now. Kaylee, do you want to kick us off?
Yep, definitely. So as Dee said, we're excited to jump into the Q&A portion of this evening. Just a heads up that if we don't get to your question tonight, we have these 3 recruiter inboxes listed on the slide here for any additional questions that may be on top of your mind. So with that, it seems like we're getting a lot of questions on whether people can be applying to both the healthcare or generalist position, as well as if you can be applying for both the intern and full-time position. Dear Jake, are you excited about this one, or would you like me to take this question?
If you want to take the healthcare generalist application question, I can dive in about full-time and internship applications.
Yep, definitely. So thinking about the healthcare and generalist role, you are welcome to apply for both positions. However, we likely will only consider you for the one that best aligns with your skill set. So when thinking about your skill set, as mentioned, please refer back to the job description on the AG website to see where you're better aligned. Also, as mentioned, the healthcare roles are not currently on the website, but will be up within the next few weeks. So we encourage you to apply then. Don't feel like you need to apply to the generalist role if you are really interested in that healthcare position. It will not make your application weigh any heavier expressing interest early. Really just trying to submit your application for that position that best aligns with your interest and your skill sets. passing it over to Dee then.
And so in terms of the question about should you apply to both the full-time and internship position, so really the summer internship role is really geared towards students the year before graduation. So this would include juniors and then master's students who are between years 1 and 2 of their master's program. So if you have graduated or will be graduating this spring, we would recommend you apply to the full-time position.
Just to add on to that really quickly, we had somebody ask if they're going to be pursuing a 1-year master's program after they graduate with their bachelor's in 2020, or in if they're going to graduate their bachelor's in 2024, and then they're going to pursue a 1-year master's program. They were asking if they're eligible for the summer analyst position, and to answer that question, they would be. If it's just a 1-year master's program, you would be able to apply for that. So just for anybody that's falling into that situation, please know that you are eligible to apply for the summer analyst position.
So I think we also have some questions about when, let's say you do receive a full-time offer, when would you be starting in 2024? So what our process is typically we will reach out to students or candidates who have accepted their offers with AG in the spring, and we will provide start date options at that time that's mutually works for like the office that you've been hired into and you as well. So typically the spring is when we reach out with those options. And I know there were some questions if you are graduating in December, can you start earlier in the spring? And with that, we would also work closely with you throughout the recruiting process and the office that you're interviewing with to determine what those start date options would be in those situations as well. So really, it's working really closely with the recruiting team and the office that you received an offer with to make sure we find the right start date for you.
Another question I'm seeing in the chat is what kind of support does AG offer analysts who join after graduating from their undergrad but want to pursue a master's degree after working for a couple of years? So this is actually really common practice here at AG. So in the analyst role, you'll have the opportunity to work in that for a few years and then transition to the senior analyst role. And after that, if you have a master's degree, you're able to be then promoted to the associate role. However, if you don't have a master's degree, you unfortunately cannot progress there. However, we have a lot of support for folks who are interested in pursuing a higher degree. So with that, we have graduate school workshops, which analysts with over 3 years of tenure are eligible to participate in. So we will support you throughout the application process to graduate schools of your choice. We will provide you with mock interviewing experiences so that you're feeling really great going into those interviews with the graduate schools that you are applying for. We also have part-time degree programs. So various analysts have the opportunity to be selected for this part-time degree program, start working towards another master's degree and continue working full-time at AG while they work on this master's degree so that they can eventually get to that associate role. And then another option that we do offer as well is our sponsored return offers. So for high-performing analysts, we do offer sponsored returns to folks that are interested in pursuing a master's degree. We will provide this offer to them. They will be able to leave AG, go complete their master's degree full-time and return to AG as an associate, sponsored by AG, which is awesome. So lots of opportunities for folks to pursue higher degrees after joining us coming out of their undergrad.
We have a few questions in the chat just regarding the application requirements. One of which is for any master's students, there is some concern that the unofficial transcripts won't be available in time for the deadline. In that case, what we would recommend is really sending along a screenshot or a list of the classes that you are enrolled in. And then once that information is available, any kind of midterm grade, which I know at every school, their policy is a little different. please feel free to forward that along to the analyst recruiting inbox so that we can then tag that to your application. What I would also recommend is just, certainly reaching out to one of us in this call as well. If that's the case, if your grades are not available yet, we can then supplement your application later. Another question just regarding the application requirements. We have a few attendees tonight wondering about submitting a writing sample. That is really not something that we're going to evaluate as part of the application process. But again, we would highly encourage you to spend a significant amount of time on your cover letter and really be thoughtful about that cover letter and what you're including there, because that's how we're really going to evaluate your experiences and learn about you. But please know the writing sample is not something that's required of our application process.
Also, just to reiterate again, geographic preferences, we want you to be really open and honest with yourself when thinking about these preferences, as we consider these heavily when considering your application. There's a couple different ways for you to express your geographic preferences on your application. One of them being in your cover letter, which is a great opportunity to explain where you're interested in working, either for the summer or full-time after graduation. We also have a specific section on our application where you can rank your geographic preferences with certain percentages after, adding up to 100%. And that will be a great indicator for us on where you're hoping to be located with regards to your position. Thinking about the internship though, offers typically go out for the internship full-time at the end of it in the office that you are interning in. So we encourage you again to be really honest and with yourself on where you could see your full-time, even if you are just applying for the internship program.
We have some questions coming in about work authorization and if AG sponsors work authorization. Yes, AG will sponsor the applicable work authorization. We have an immigration team that works closely with candidates and employees who require visa or work permit support. We do have a requirement for U.S. analyst and summer analyst positions that individuals that require sponsorship must have STEM degrees. And that is also something that is indicated on our application as well. So you'll find that information within on our career page and within the application. Also seeing questions about whether or not we have a rolling deadline. So again, the application deadlines that we provided previously, if anyone were to miss those deadlines, we still recommend submitting an application, and then from there, applications will be reviewed on a rolling basis after the application deadline. And again, once we post the analyst, healthcare positions and the externship positions, the exact application deadlines will be listed there as well.
People are also asking if candidates with work experience, like around the 1 year mark, can apply for the analyst role. And while our hires are typically directly out of their studies in either undergraduate or master's, we have considered candidates in the past that do come in with experience. So not as common as we do a lot of campus recruiting. However, we are open to considering candidates that do have current work experience.
We have a few questions in the chat just regarding the cover letter and really the preferred length of that cover letter. We would recommend keeping it to about a page or a page and a half for your writing cover letter. I think that would be a sufficient amount, but again, please make sure that you're reviewing that really closely, proofreading it, checking your work before you send it in.
I'm seeing questions about AG's culture and what makes AG different than other firms. And while we only work at AG and can speak to our experiences at AG, we will say AG is definitely a place that is very collaborative, which I think Jake mentioned. It is certainly why we'll like to learn more about your teamwork and leadership experience, because a lot of our casework and case teams are very collaborative environments. We also provide a lot of hands-on training on the job. So we went over that previously as well. But I just kind of want to highlight the technical training resources that all AG employees will have. Not only is it hands-on technical trainings, we also have AGU, which is kind of like our online analysis group university, where you have access to hundreds of various trainings, whether that be technical training, soft-skill trainings. So there's a lot of resources around supporting employees. And I think something that's also different than maybe some management consulting firms is our work doesn't really require a lot of travel. So for the majority of your work will be within the office that you're working in, and not really flying around each week. There are certainly some instances, whether it be helping with recruiting, campus events like that, but there's really minimal travel requirement within economic consulting and AG specifically.
And piggybacking off of that, Dee, I also want to add in that our staffing model is also pretty unique to AG. So the way that we think about staffing here is what we like to call our internal labor market. And so this is just the way that we go about networking to get staffed on cases. So once you join full-time, you'll be at AG building your network so that you can get used to working with folks who you enjoy working with, get staffed on cases that are truly of interest to you. You're able to work across practice areas and are not hired into just one practice area on the economic consulting side. So it's really a great opportunity for you to try out different topics, whether you may be an expert or may be interested in learning, as well as get staffed on cases with folks who you like working with and work with managers who you really get along with and like their working style. So you can really customize your caseload to be what is most exciting and interesting to you.
We have a few questions in the chat just regarding the type of role that students should be applying for. For any students that have an MBA or a PhD and are asking about applying for the analyst role, we would really direct you to apply for the associate role when that is posted. And so please keep an eye out for that. That'll be posted in the coming weeks. But for any PhD students, the summer analyst or the analyst position is probably not going to be the best fit for the type of background and the type of education that you have to this point.
I think we have time for one or two more questions, and I will say we will pull up the slide with the QR code. I think people were having some issues earlier, so here is the larger QR code for everyone to use. I did want to answer a question. We got a few questions about like if you'll be tested on the spot to demonstrate your technical abilities. So to answer that, all of our interviews are behavioral based, so there won't be any like case interviews or tests or quizzes, anything like that. However, we will be asking you to maybe walk through some of your research experience, whether that be in the classroom or at previous internships or work experience. Something I also recommend is prior to your interview, I would definitely recommend like reviewing everything that's on your resume, because there's certainly things that interviewers could ask. So I think definitely being having like a good idea of anything that's listed on there. That way you're able to kind of speak more about it during the interview. But all interviews are behavioral based. think one more question.
There are just a few questions, and we had gone over this in the presentation, but just to reiterate regarding the healthcare analyst position, that position is not posted just yet, but will be posted in the next month or so. So please, if you are somebody who is interested in a healthcare role, please check back in the next month.
And we have our healthcare interactive case session tomorrow night. So if you have any more healthcare specific questions or want to learn more about the type of work we do in this practice area, we really encourage you to join this session. We'll be walking through a real case live with you all so that you have the opportunity to interact, answer things, and really see the type of work we do in the HEOR epidemiology and market access practice.
And I will say, if anyone has already submitted an application and they're like, oh, I want to change something, do anything different, you can log back in to iCIMS where you submitted your application and update a cover letter or resume if you feel the need to. So you do have that option to do so. And if you do have any questions throughout the process, you can reach out to members of the recruiting team. We'll send around an email to everyone following this event with our contact info. And we are recording this session and we'll share the recording out in the upcoming weeks, along with any of the other events we recorded throughout the EngAGement series. But as Kaylee said, if anyone is interested in learning more about the healthcare practice and working through a case, definitely attend tomorrow. But with that, I hope everyone has a great evening, and thank you so much for attending this evening.